We're micro drafting for week 3. First board we're looking at, let's check it out. QBs are pretty mediocre. Running backs are okay, not that much better. We got a couple of good receivers. I've got the first pick in this one. Let's see. Justin Jefferson or Amon-Ra, those are the two I'm deciding between. JJ's banged up, and it looks like there's a bunch of good receivers I could get later, but I'm going to roll with ASRB against Arizona. I think he has a big week. Let's lock him in. On to the next game. Already made a couple of picks in this one. Went Gibbs, Rashee Rice, Malik Neighbors. He's got Daniels, Mason, Harrison Jr., and Collins. We still have a couple of good QBs on the board. I wouldn't mind getting Richardson. I think Green Bay has a big week, or Tennessee rather, has a big week, so wouldn't mind Levis Stroud. I don't love that's a tough matchup against Minnesota, especially on the road. Minnesota's got a really good team, a really good home field advantage. Don't mind Darnold. Let's see what other positions we can look at. Barkley looks enticing. And already picked the receivers. Try to stay away from the tight ends and possibly draft a defense later to fill one of the flexes. Let's lock in Barkley as our first pick. And so we still need a QB, tight end, 2 flexes, and a super flex. Kind of like Jonathan Taylor at home. Chicago's defense is really good, though. It's a tough matchup. Also like Rachaad White against a bad Denver run defense. Let's go with Rachaad White and a good matchup against Denver. I think they're going to win that game, so it's going to be a lot of positive game script too. Next game on the board, Richardson, Stroud, Darnold, Watson, Cousins. No one I love there. I think Hubbard's pretty good this week. I think he's underrated, although the Panthers are awful, but Raiders aren't that good either. And then plus you get a boost with Andy Dalton, but we could probably draft him a little bit later. Njigba, Waddle, Demarcus Robinson. Don't love these picks. Kelsey, Goddard, kind of like Kelsey, but Browns defense at home versus the Giants. And the defenses can be played as a flex position, so we could see that's filled in the flex. And the defenses get a little boost in scoring too, so they are viable picks. So you can check out the scoring here. So we've got back-to-back picks. We need one more. Thinking about just locking in a QB, taking who I like the best here. Let's go with Richardson at home. Even though he's got a tough matchup, just his rushing upsides hard to argue with. Next game on the board, we got one of the QBs taken, 3 left. These I kind of all put in the same category, would like Watson the most, and then probably Minshew. Both of them have really good matchups, you could see right here. Versus the Giants and Panthers. Chuba Hubbard, wouldn't mind getting him to fill in. Actually, I already filled both my flexes, so yeah, he's off the board. We need a wide receiver. Mike Evans looks like a good player this week, but he's got a tough matchup. Surtain, he's going to shadow him all week, so I don't love that pick. Packers at Tennessee. Tennessee's one of my picks this week. I think their offense does well, so I don't want to take their defense, and Minnesota's been playing well. They're at home. I don't want to take this defense either. Let's take one of the QBs. Let's lock in both Watson and Minshew. All these drafts are super flex, so you can take 2 QBs here. And then for our last 2 picks, we'll take a receiver and a tight end. And we've got a bunch of games going right now. It's draft on your own time. We've got a 24-hour pick clock up until Sunday. So we could have a ton of these games going all at once and not worry about, oh, I've got to be right there playing at that second. So whenever those users play us back, we'll play them. We'll go back to those games. Definitely don't want Bo Nix, even though he's got a pretty good matchup. We got Mahomes down here. Bunch of running backs. And so I already got Hurts and Godwin. All the good receivers have been taken. I think DJ Moore could have a good game, but I don't want to take him this early. If Bryce Young was playing, I'd be enticed to take the Raiders' defense. Defenses do really well in this type of league. But let's roll with ETN. I like the Jaguars this week. I think they come out hot. He's been slugging a little bit, so I think he has a bounce back. And then let's take Mahomes too. Lock in one of our QBs. I think that's a really big advantage. We've got the 2 top QBs on the board here, and he's going to be left with 2 out of Stafford, Watson, Richardson. So I really like that pick there. All right, only 1 pick's made in this one. He started with JJ. I've got 2 picks in a row. You can see Mahomes here, considering him. Let's see who the running backs are. Kamara's a really good pick. Kyron's a really good pick. Godwin, I love this week. Rashee Rice, a lot of good players on this board. I think Godwin has a really big week, similar to the reason why I was talking about Mike Evans. Surtain's going to shadow him. I think Godwin has a huge week this week. Also like Rice. But I'm going to roll with Kamara instead. Maybe one of those guys falls back to us. Kamara's just been red hot, and he's got a great matchup against the Eagles. Next game on the board. QBs, don't love them. Stroud, I do like, but I'm not rushing to take him right now. Nico Collins looks good. Marvin Harrison Jr., like both of those. Devontae Adams, bunch of good receivers. Don't like the defenses. Let's roll with Barkley. He's been money this year. And Harrison Jr., let's roll with him. He's got a good matchup against Detroit. And this is going to be a high-scoring game. They're going to have to put up points to keep up with Detroit. I like Collins a lot, too. It's just a tough matchup, so a little hesitant to pick him over a guy like Harrison, who's got a great matchup this week. Next game up, let's see who we have at quarterback. Mayfield, Stroud, Purdy, Cousins. Not rushing to take any of them. I already filled both my receiver slots, so I can't take Waddle. Titans D, I like a lot against Green Bay. I think they easily cover this week. I'm going to be taking the money line all week. So we need 2 running backs and 2 flexes. Let's see. Kenneth Walker isn't going to play this week, so Charbonnet looks like a good pick. Let's lock him in. And Purdy against LA looks pretty good. Mayfield against Denver looks good. I actually already have both of my quarterbacks, so can't take a QB. Let's go with Tennessee to fill one of our flex spots. Next game up, Caleb, first time seeing him. So we need 2 QBs and a tight end. Let's see. I guess Kittle's been ruled out, but let's go with Laporta. He's been doing nothing. Expect a bounce back from him this week in a high-scoring game. And let's take... See, he already took both of his quarterbacks, so I didn't need to take a QB there. It's better to take a tight end. I took the tight end of my choice, and I could wait on my second QB, knowing that he's already filled both of his quarterback spots. But these QBs aren't looking good. Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Andy Dalton. Geno Smith is by far the best option here. It's going to be a tough decision. I'll probably take Caleb Williams for the second QB. Next up, we've got Levis, Minshew, Stafford. I've already got Josh Allen, so just need one of these QBs. He's picked both, so we don't need to pick a QB until our last pick. Like Charbonnet, like Brian Robinson, like Ridley this week. Olave's got to bounce back at some point. Drake London did well last week, and that should be a higher scoring game, but Chiefs D is pretty good. Chargers at Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, so I don't mind Chargers D here. But let's roll with what do we need? Need a receiver, running back, and 2 flexes. So I'm fine with waiting on the running backs. Let's roll with Olave. He's got a good matchup against Philly. And let's roll with a Ridley against Green Bay. Again, Titans, one of my picks of the week. I think they win straight up. Love them this week. We need 2 flexes and a tight end. So we're going to be stuck with George Kittle. He'll get replaced for another tight end. So I'll just wait on the tight end. So for our 2 flexes, liking Calvin Ridley, liking Charbonnet. Let's roll with those 2. So we could see this team coming together, playing Fusion Man. Let us know who you think's got the better team. New game on the board. We got Mahomes. Looks like a really big advantage here. Running backs look pretty good. Like all these running backs, so I'm fine with waiting. He started with CD. Let's see who else we have at receiver. Told you guys how I felt about Evans. He's going to get shadowed by Surtain. Love Godwin this week. Like Bucks D too. They've got a really good matchup. Same with Seahawks against Miami, Skylar Thompson. Let's go with Kyron against the Niners. And ETN against Buffalo. Really like both of those picks there. Fine with waiting on a QB. Because there's a good amount of them there. We got 1 pick left in this one. Need a super flex, so yeah, coming back to this game. Let's go with Caleb. I think Bears do well this week. So we've got the projections here, 130 to 128. So we got Kamara, he went Gino, and Olave. Like Kyron here. Nico Collins looks like by far the best receiver. Rashid Shaheed's been red hot, so wouldn't mind taking him. Bucks would be a viable flex option. Same with Steelers too. Steelers D is mad good, and at home versus a beat up Herbert. Chargers have beat up on the Raiders and Panthers. I'll probably look to take them as one of my flex spots later. So let's fill out the rest of the position slots now. Let's go with Kyron. And I like Charbonnet. I think he's going to have a positive game script. Seahawks are favored by 4.5 points. And then, do we want to take a QB? Watson against the Giants. I don't mind. But I'm fine with having 2 out of these 3 between Stroud, Darnold, Watson. So I'm not in a rush to take a QB. And even though Houston's got a tough matchup against Minnesota, Collins has been a beast. And there's not many other options at receiver here that I like. Deontay with the Panthers and Andy Dalton, Smith, 2 or 3 receivers, crowded receiver room. Waddle's playing with Skylar Thompson, Demarcus Robinson. He's like the 3rd or 4th receiver on this team. So he actually could be a sleeper pick with both receivers out now that I'm thinking about it. Might take him later. Rashid Shaheed's good too, so we'll probably look to take one of those 2 later to fill that second receiver spot. All right, next game. So we've got both quarterback slots filled. We need a wide receiver and a tight end. So although I don't love the matchup for Evans, I like him better than Lockett, so let's lock him down for our last receiver slot. And then at tight end, let's roll with Kelsey over Goddard. All right, new draft board. Receivers are weak, so Jared Goff, taking 2 QBs here actually could be a move. And then My opponent would be forced to start a position player in the Superflex, would be a huge advantage for me. But let's see who the other players are. Like Kamara, JJ, Adams, Hill, Rice, a lot of good players. I'm gonna lock in a quarterback. Don't want him to take Goff and Darnold, but I'm gonna go with Kamara as the second pick. I just don't like those QBs enough to take him over a Kamara or even a Barkley, a Jefferson, a Rashee Rice. But really like Pollard this week too. Love Tennessee. Love the Tennessee players. They win straight up. New draft board. Burrow against Washington. He should put up a bunch of points in that game. So should Murray. So those are two good QBs I could pick here. Started out. But love A-Chain. I think they're going to run a ton. Don't even have to look at the receivers, and I'm going to pick A-Chain. They're going to run a ton with Skylar Thompson, so I'm fine taking him. And then Godwin or ASRB, that's a tough one. It's hard to go against St. Brown, but Godwin's been a beast, and Mike Evans going to be shadowed by Surtain. Ooh, it's a tough call. Let's go with ASRB, and hopefully Godwin can fall to us on the way back down, and he's going to maybe take Burrow and maybe Murray, and could possibly take a Henry or ETN, and we could get ETN on the way back down. So it's a pretty good start. A-Chain, ASRB. He started with Bijan. Allen, Burrow, 2 blue power rating quarterbacks. But I don't think they're that much better than even like a Mayfield. Except for Allen, he's a beast. We'll probably take him and Kamara. Mason's good too. He's got a good matchup. Gibbs. Receivers are pretty weak, so Rice looks like a good positional advantage here. But let's lock in Josh Allen. If he's ever on the board, I'm always taking him. And hard to ignore Kamara with the points he's been putting up. I really like Rice too, but let's go with Kamara. Bunch of good running backs, though. That's what gives me a little bit of pause. I know I'm going to get at least one of these 3 running backs, and then I'm fine with filling it in with Brian Robinson as the second running back. And if I were to go wide receiver here, it's like there's really... If I don't go wide receiver here, I'm stuck with maybe a Drake London and then really players I don't love. But let's go with... Never mind. That was the first pick. Took Josh Allen, and that's the end of it. All right, back on the board for this game. I think he took Shaheed and Charbonnet. So he's got the Seattle stack. Let's see. Demarcus Robinson, who I was talking about before. Could be a pick here. Jonathan Taylor. He's been getting disrespected here. But let's go with... What do we need? Another receiver. Let's go with Robinson. Or I'm going to wait on Robinson. I think I can get him later. Let's go with Steelers D. Lock in one of our flexes. Wouldn't mind Bucks D too. And I like Jonathan. I don't love Jonathan Taylor. He's got a tough matchup, and he's kind of someone I've just been low on this year. Like Trey McBride versus... Let's go with tight end. I normally don't take tight end early, but really like Trey McBride, especially this week. And I'm fine with filling my wide receiver slot with Demarcus Robinson. Fine with either of these two at running back. Or no, I'm going to go with Bucks as my other flex, most likely, or one of those running backs. And then fine with taking two of these three quarterbacks, Watson, Darnold, Stroud. So like that pick.